All right, so we've got this stack of biohacking and nutrition stuff you sent
Oh,
over, and it looks like you're feeling a bit
mm,
sluggish lately. You want to figure out how to
yeah.
kickstart your metabolism
Yep.
for more energy, maybe even some fat loss
Yeah, but
without like the crazy restrictions, right?
yeah, I mean, sustainable change is key. That's
That
what it boils to.
totally. Yeah, absolutely. We've got podcast interviews in here with experts, like Dave
Oh,
Asprey and Nate Palmer,
hmm
some research-backed articles, even a few personal anecdotes
yeah,
to go through.
that's great. A good mix of like theory and real world
I mean,
experience.
and get this, you're actually designed to be lazy.
Oh, really?
Your body is. Anyway, we're talking about this
Interesting.
concept called METO-S. This idea
How about
that
that?
our bodies are wired for efficiency above all else.
I see.
Yeah. It's,
That's fascinating how this like evolutionary drive can actually work in our favor, if we
yeah.
understand it. Asprey really nailed it with that
Yeah.
METO-S analogy, I think.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting our biology, like we can use it to our advantage.
Right. So how do we hack this METO-S then to
Right.
boost metabolism? What's like an example?
One strategy that pops up a lot in the research you sent is carb backloading.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
Nate Palmer, the host of the Low Carb Hustle podcast, is a big
Hmm.
proponent of this.
Yeah.
And the idea is to eat lighter in carbs and fat during the day,
Hmm.
and then have like a larger carb-rich meal in the evening.
So instead of the typical like restrict carbs all day advice, it's
Yeah.
more about when you eat them.
Yeah, exactly. So think about it. Your muscles are like primed to store glycogen after a day of activity.
Right.
So by having the carbs later, you're more likely to like fuel those muscles instead of storing them as fat.
Okay, so I can see how that would help with like those afternoon
Mhm.
energy slumps too. You front load the day
Yeah.
with protein and fats to stay full and focused and then replenish with
Mhm.
carbs later on.
Yeah.
Smart.
Palmer also highlights the potential for better sleep
Okay.
and easier fat loss with this approach.
But okay, what
Yeah.
about those days when you do have like a tough workout? Wouldn't that deplete glycogen like earlier in the day?
Well, for those situations, Palmer suggests having a piece of fruit
Right.
or another natural carb source post-workout
Got it.
to replenish those stores without disrupting, the
Oh,
overall
yeah.
strategy.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a bit, I noticed that both Palmer and Davinia Taylor,
Okay.
another biohacking expert you've been digging into,
Yeah.
they both seem to agree that high-intensity workouts might not be
Interesting.
all they're cracked up to be.
Yeah, especially for women and particularly as we age.
Right.
So, high-intensity training is popular, but it can lead to a spike in cortisol, the stress hormone,
Right.
and chronically elevated cortisol
Yeah.
can actually work against metabolic goals, like in the long run.
So swapping those intense HIIT sessions for something else.
Yeah, both Palmer and Taylor are big proponents of strength training.
Okay.
Great for hormonal function, bone density, overall long-term.
Right. I admit the idea of not feeling completely wiped
Yeah.
after every workout is
Yeah.
appealing. But I do have a question though. Palmer mentions that he's not a fan of burpees. Why would a biohacking expert be against a move that seems like pretty efficient?
He believes they're often chosen for the trainer's convenience
Oh, okay.
rather than the client's actual benefit.
Right.
Although I would argue a well-executed burpee can be an effective, like full-body exercise. It really comes down to individual needs and preferences, I think.
Fair. Fair enough. So
Yeah.
speaking of preferences, let's talk about morning routines. There's a lot in here about how
Yeah.
important they are.
Palmer, in particular, is all about streamlining your morning
Mm-hmm.
to reduce decision fatigue.
Oh, okay.
And he says that doing that, having that simple routine,
Mm-hmm.
frees up mental energy for more important things throughout the day.
What does his routine look like?
It's surprisingly minimal.
Okay.
It's 60 seconds of explosive exercise, like think jumping jacks or push-ups,
Oh, wow.
followed by 32 ounces of water.
Okay.
That's it.
He's serious about
Yeah.
reducing decisions, huh?
Mm.
I remember reading that he even owns like 9
Yeah.
identical black shirts to
Listen.
eliminate any wardrobe choices in the morning.
I mean, it's a great illustration, I think, of how small, consistent choices can free up mental bandwidth. You don't need to go to that extreme, of course.
yeah.
But having a set routine that
Yeah.
gets you going without, like, overthinking is key.
What about biohacking tools? You've got some notes here about
Yeah.
continuous glucose monitors,
Oh, yeah.
CGMs, and the Lumen device. Are these something you're interested in exploring?
I think they could be really valuable, especially if you're,
Yeah.
data-driven and
Ah.
want like a deeper understanding of your metabolism.
Mm-hmm.
So a CGM tracks your blood sugar in real time,
Well,
so you can see how like different foods and activities
yeah.
impact you.
Right.
The Lumen device measures your respiratory quotient,
Mm-hmm.
which tells you whether you're primarily burning carbs or fat.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds like both of those tools can offer a lot of personalized
Mm.
insights. What stood out to you in the research about those?
Well, Palmer found his lumen scores improved when he ate earlier in the night
How
and stayed hydrated.
definitely. Anything about Davinia Taylor's
Yeah.
experience with those tools?
She and her community noticed that calming activities
Okay.
like breath work
Mm.
or meditation
Mm-hmm.
could shift their body into a more
Oh, wow.
fat-burning state as measured by the lumen.
Mhm.
Pretty cool, I thought.
So we're not just talking about food and exercise, but even our mental state
Right.
can influence metabolism.
Exactly.
That's a pretty holistic perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
these are just tools, right? Ultimately, it's about making informed choices
Mhm.
based on the data and how you feel.
Right. Speaking of holistic approaches, there's a lot in here about Nate Palmer's 7 daily investments
Oh, yeah.
for well-being. He frames these as small actions that compound over time, kind of like financial investments.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that analogy.
Yeah, right?
Small, consistent efforts
Mm-hmm.
lead to big results over time.
Exactly. And what are those 7 daily investments?
They are great morning routine,
Okay.
a high protein, high fat breakfast, high
Mhm.
protein, high carb dinner with vegetables, writing down your 3 critical tasks
Okay.
for the day,
Mhm.
drinking a gallon of water a day,
Wow.
training for at least 20 minutes a day,
Got it.
and a weekly 24-hour fast.
Okay. So that covers a lot of ground, huh? From nutrition and exercise to like
Yeah, it does.
productivity and
Yeah.
even mindfulness.
Yeah.
I see a theme here. Simplifying, streamlining, and making consistent choices.
It's a great framework, especially if you're goal-oriented
Yeah.
and want to like avoid
Well,
feeling
let's-
overwhelmed.
Now, I've got to ask about detoxing. It's one of those topics that always seems to generate a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
But Palmer seems to have a pretty straightforward approach.
He calls it the sugar detox,
Okay.
and it focuses on hydration, cutting out processed sugar,
Mhm.
gentle movement, and a weekly 24-hour fast.
Okay.
He believes our bodies are like already incredibly
Yeah.
efficient
Right.
at detoxifying on their own.
So ditch the crazy cleanses and trust your body's natural
Yeah,
processes.
Yeah.
That's refreshing to hear.
He even pokes fun at some of those more extreme trends like goat's milk cleanses, which I thought,
I'm all about ditching the gimmicks.
yeah,
I think this ties back to the Meat OS.
totally.
Work with your body's natural
Yeah.
systems, not against them.
It's a theme
Yeah.
I'll definitely be revisiting as we keep going.
Before we wrap up
Okay.
part 1, I do want to touch on Davinia Taylor's shift protocol, which you've flagged as particularly interesting. What is it about this approach that caught your eye?
Well, it's all about optimizing foundational health
Okay.
before layering on any fancy biohacks.
Ooh.
It stands for sleep, hormones, insights, food flow, and training.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in all the latest gadgets
Right.
and supplements without addressing the basics. So she's basically saying, don't bother with the high-tech stuff if you're not sleeping well and
Yeah, essentially, yes.
eating your veggies.
Taylor emphasizes that expensive biohacks
Right.
won't make much of a difference if your foundation isn't solid.
All right, let's break down this shift protocol. We know sleep is crucial.
Yeah.
So let's start there. It seems like everyone we've talked about so far emphasizes its importance.
Yeah, it really is the cornerstone of everything.
Yeah.
Hormones, energy levels, even like how our bodies respond to food. It's all connected to sleep.
So what's the best way to optimize our sleep for better metabolic health?
There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of focus on sleep hygiene, things like limiting blue light in the evenings,
Okay.
getting early morning light exposure, and sticking to a consistent sleep schedule.
And before we move on to the rest of the shift protocol, is there anything about the alcohol discussion that particularly resonated with you?
I found Nate Palmer's experiment with giving up alcohol
Mm-hmm.
for a year incredibly eye-opening.
Oh, wow.
He found it significantly boosted his energy and overall health.
I've heard that even moderate alcohol consumption can disrupt sleep, but was
Yeah.
there anything else that surprised him?
Yeah, he was surprised to discover that even small amounts of alcohol significantly reduced his heart rate variability,
Oh, okay.
HRV.
Why is HRV so important when it comes to metabolism and overall?
Well, it's a key indicator of your resilience
Right.
and how well your body responds to stress.
Right.
Lower HRV is linked to increased stress and a higher risk of various
Got it.
health issues.
That's a good reminder that even moderate alcohol consumption can have
Uh-huh.
an impact on our health goals, even if we don't always
Definitely.
realize it
Yes.
to consider.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground already,
We have.
from hacking our meat OS
Hmm.
to understanding the power of routines.
Right.
There's a lot to digest here.
And this is just the beginning. In part two, we'll delve into the specifics of carb backloading,
Okay.
optimizing your morning routine,
Yeah.
and how syncing with your menstrual cycle can be a game changer.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more insights and actionable tips. All right, we're back and ready to unpack more of this metabolic magic. Before we went on, we were talking about Davinia Taylor's shift protocol and how crucial quality sleep is.
It really sets the foundation for everything else
Yeah.
we're discussing, you
Yeah.
know? Hormones, energy levels, even how our bodies respond to food.
Mhm.
It's all connected to sleep. Okay, so let's dive into the specifics of carb backloading now.
Okay.
We know it's about eating fewer carbs earlier in the day and then
Yeah.
more in the evening, but how does that actually play out in like a typical day?
Nate Palmer gave some great examples from his own routine.
Mm-hmm.
He aims to delay his first meal
Okay.
until around 11:30 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And he starts with a high protein, high fat option,
Okay.
like a protein shake with peanut butter or eggs with sausage.
Sounds pretty filling.
Yeah.
What about lunch?
He often sticks with another protein shake for lunch,
Okay.
aiming for around 500, 600 calories total.
So keeping those early meals relatively low in carbs is
Right.
key. And then dinner is when the carbs come in.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
he enjoys things like, rice,
Mhm.
potatoes, even tacos for dinner,
Wow.
replenishing those glycogen stores after a day of activity.
Okay. This seems so much more sustainable than trying to restrict carbs all day
Yeah.
long, you know? You get to enjoy those foods just at a
Right.
more strategic time.
Yeah.
It almost sounds too good to be true. Are there any downsides?
For some people, it takes a bit of adjustment to get used to eating this way.
Right.
And you might need to experiment
Mm-hmm.
to find the timing and carb amounts that work best for your
Makes sense, yeah. No one-size-fits-all
right.
approach.
Yeah.
So while Palmer focuses on carb timing, Davinia Taylor seems to prioritize syncing nutrition and training with the menstrual cycle. Can you explain why this is
Absolutely. Hormonal fluctuations throughout the month can significantly impact, everything from our energy levels and stress resilience to our ability to build muscle.
So instead of fighting those fluctuations, we should
Right.
really work with them.
Exactly.
Right.
It starts with understanding the different phases of the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So during the follicular phase, which is the time leading up to ovulation, estrogen levels rise, which makes us more resilient to stress and primes our bodies for muscle growth.
So that's the time to hit those strength training sessions.
Absolutely. You can really push yourself during this phase, focusing on heavier lifts
By the way,
and higher intensity workouts.
what about nutrition during the follicular phase? Anything specific we should focus on?
Taylor doesn't delve into specific macronutrient targets,
Oh,
but she does mention the importance of supporting estrogen detoxification during this phase.
Oh.
So incorporating cruciferous vegetables and sulfur-containing foods like garlic and onions can be helpful.
So we're fueling for intense workouts and supporting healthy hormone balance.
Yes. What happens after ovulation?
We shift into the luteal phase where
Okay.
progesterone becomes the dominant hormone. And this phase is all about
Rest and recovery.
oh, okay.
Energy levels tend to dip. Cortisol might be a bit higher.
Yeah.
And we're generally like more sensitive to stress.
So should we just like skip workouts altogether during the luteal?
Well, not necessarily,
Or that-
but adjust your approach.
Okay.
Instead of high-intensity training, focus on restorative activities
Mm-hmm.
like yoga,
Okay.
Pilates, or lighter cardio.
Got it. What about strength training? Should we avoid it
Well, you can
completely?
still incorporate strength training.
Yeah.
Just listen to your body. Maybe reduce the weight or the intensity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good time to focus on like maintaining strength rather than hitting
Right.
personal records.
Okay. What about nutrition during this phase? Any specific?
Taylor suggests increasing protein intake
Right.
during the luteal phase
Okay.
to support muscle recovery and minimize
Right.
muscle breakdown.
Okay. Makes sense. Anything else to keep in mind during this?
This is often when cravings
rate.
kick in.
Yeah.
It's not about deprivation,
Right.
but focus on nutrient dense foods that support your body and help manage those cravings.
Solid advice. Now, I want to circle back to the insights component of the shift protocol.
Okay.
You mentioned that understanding our own data
Yeah.
is a key part
Yeah.
of this. How can we apply this in our own?
Well, think about all the tools we
Absolutely.
have now.
Yeah.
Wearables like smartwatches and fitness trackers, at-home lab tests,
Mm-hmm.
even apps that track sleep, nutrition, and
Mhm.
mood.
Wow.
It's about finding the tools that work for you
Yeah.
and using that data to make
Okay.
informed choices.
Can you give us a concrete example
Yeah.
of how we might use this data?
If you're using like a CGM
Mm-hmm.
and notice a particular food
Mm-hmm.
consistently spikes your blood sugar, you might, choose to limit it or eat it at a different time.
Right. Or
So-
if your sleep tracker shows you consistently wake up groggy after a glass of wine, you might cut back
Yeah, exactly.
or eliminate it altogether.
It's about noticing patterns and
Right.
experimenting to
Yeah.
find what works best for you.
Okay.
This is really the heart of biohacking, using data and self-experimentation
Yeah.
to optimize
Right.
health and well-being.
Okay. This brings us to the final part of the shift protocol training. Is Taylor just talking about like
It's more holistic than that.
exercise here?
Yeah, she emphasizes both physical and mental training.
Okay.
So while she, advocates for strength training, as we discussed,
Mhm.
she also highlights the importance of like mental fitness through practices
Okay.
like meditation
Right.
and mindfulness.
So we're training our minds and bodies
Yeah.
to work together.
It's a
It's a powerful concept.
shift protocol, like reminds us that lasting change comes from a multifaceted approach,
Right.
addressing both of the physical and the mental aspects of well-being.
So as we wrap up part 2, I want to touch on something that both Palmer and Taylor emphasize:
Yeah.
the importance of mindset.
It's easy to get caught up in all the details and like protocols,
Yeah.
but our mindset plays a huge role in our
So it's not just about what we do,
That's
but
it.
how we think about it.
exactly. Both Palmer and Taylor encourage approaching this journey with curiosity
Okay.
and self-compassion. Remember, it's about progress, not perfection.
Right, and to focus on those small wins, those daily investments that add up over time.
Right. Building sustainable habits
Yeah.
and enjoying the process is key.
Mhm.
After all, we want to feel better, have more energy, and live longer, healthier lives,
Yeah.
right?
Well said. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this section, from carb backloading and syncing with our cycles to the importance of data and mindset.
Yeah.
It's amazing how interconnected it all is.
It really is. And there's still more to unpack. In part 3, we'll explore some common misconceptions about biohacking
Right.
and talk about how to avoid like feeling overwhelmed
Right.
by all the information.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right there.
Looking forward to it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back for the final part of our metabolic deep dive.
we're back for the final stretch of our metabolic deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from carb backloading and syncing with our cycles to the power of mindset and self-experimentation.
Right.
We even touched on some cool biohacking tools like CGMs and the Lumen device.
Mhm.
But before we wrap up, I want to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Biohacking can sometimes feel a little intimidating.
Yeah. Even overwhelming.
Totally. Yeah. There's so much information out there. It's easy to get caught up in the latest trends and gadgets and feel like you need to buy all the things and do all of that.
Yeah. Like, do I need a hyperbaric chamber?
Right.
Should I be drinking butter coffee? Is everyone secretly microdosing?
Yeah. It can make your head spin.
It can. Yeah.
It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking biohacking is all about expensive gadgets and supplements, but that's really missing the point.
So what is the point? Where should we be focusing our energy if we want to optimize our metabolism and feel our best?
It always comes back to the fundamentals. Remember Davinia Taylor's shift protocol?
Right.
Sleep, nutrition, stress management, movement.
Right.
Those are the pillars of true biohacking.
So she's basically saying, don't bother with the fancy stuff if you're not sleeping well and eating your veggies.
Those foundational pieces are crucial.
Yeah.
As she says, expensive biohacks won't make much of a difference if your foundation isn't solid.
So before you invest in that shiny new biohacking device, ask yourself, am I getting enough sleep? Am I eating mostly whole unprocessed foods?
Yeah.
Am I managing my stress levels effectively?
Those are the questions that will move the needle the most when it comes to your metabolic health and overall well-being.
That's such a good reminder for anyone feeling lost or overwhelmed, Start with the fundamentals, experiment with different strategies, and find what works for you.
Yeah. And remember, it's a journey, not a race.
No. Right.
Be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
And focus on what makes you feel your best, both physically and mentally.
Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought, something to ponder as you continue exploring these concepts. We've talked a lot about working with our bodies' natural rhythms,
right?
Not against them,
like syncing our nutrition and exercise.
Exactly. But what if we could actually influence those rhythms, at an even deeper level? What if we could hack our own biology?
Interesting. That's a fascinating concept, and one that's being explored more and more in the world of biohacking.
We're only just beginning to understand the incredible potential of the human body. With a little knowledge and experimentation, who knows what we might be to achieve.
It's an exciting time to be exploring these ideas. There's so much. We're still learning about the intricate workings of our bodies.
That's a perfect note to end on. Stay curious, keep exploring, and never stop learning.
Yeah.
That's the true spirit of biohacking.
Couldn't agree more. This has been a fantastic deep dive.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration into optimizing your metabolism. Remember, start with the fundamentals, listen to your body, and embrace the journey.
And don't forget to have fun with it.
Yeah.
See you next time for another deep dive.